The little girl had been standing under the broken bus shelter for nearly 40 minutes when Rebecca Sloan finally noticed her. Rain poured across the empty city street, soaking the child's shoes and darkening the sleeves of her school sweater. She looked no older than 8, with a small purple backpack pressed against her chest and wet hair stuck to her cheeks. Every few seconds, she looked down the road as if she expected someone to appear. No one did. Rebecca had just left a late board meeting and was stepping toward her waiting black sedan when she stopped beneath the awning of her company headquarters. She could have gotten into the car and gone home. Instead, she crossed the street toward the child, unaware that within minutes a breathless single father would come running through the rain, and force one of the most powerful CEOs in the city to see a kind of struggle she had spent years overlooking. If you believe kindness still matters and that people deserve second chances when life pushes them into impossible situations, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to Dad's Hope. Your support helps stories like this reach people who may be silently carrying more than anyone realizes. Rebecca approached slowly so she would not frighten the girl. The child watched her carefully but did not move. Rebecca asked whether someone was coming to get her, and after a moment the girl nodded. Her name was Mia, and her father was supposed to meet her after school, but the bus had dropped her off at the wrong stop because of a route change caused by flooding. Mia had remembered her father once showing her the tall glass building across the street and telling her he sometimes worked nearby, so she had decided to wait there rather than wander through streets she did not know. Rebecca felt a chill that had nothing to do with the weather. The girl had made a surprisingly sensible decision, but she was still alone, soaked, and visibly trying not to cry. Rebecca brought Mia beneath the covered entrance of the building and asked security for a towel and a cup of warm water. Mia refused to leave the glass doors because she was afraid her father might not find her if she went inside. Rebecca understood. She stayed beside her. For most of her adult life, Rebecca had rarely been forced to wait for anything. Cars waited for her. Meetings waited for her. Assistants adjusted schedules around her. Her company, Sloan Technologies, employed thousands of people and generated more money in a week than most families would see in a lifetime. Yet standing beside a wet child clutching a backpack, Rebecca suddenly felt powerless. She kept watching the road. 10 minutes later, a man appeared at the far end of the block. He was running. He wore a reflective work jacket, heavy boots, and work trousers darkened by rain. His face was pale with panic, and he nearly slipped as he crossed the street. Mia saw him first. She ran from beneath the awning. The man dropped to his knees in the rain and wrapped both arms around her. Rebecca watched his entire body shake with relief. His name was Thomas Grant. He had been raising Mia alone since her mother died 3 years earlier. That afternoon, Thomas had been working an emergency repair shift at a nearby office complex when a piece of equipment failed and trapped the crew inside the service area longer than expected. He had arranged for Mia's school bus to drop her at their usual stop, where he expected to meet her. But flooding forced the bus onto a different route. Thomas did not learn about the change until he checked his phone after leaving the job site and saw 3 missed calls from the school. He had spent the next 20 minutes running from stop to stop because his car was at a repair shop and public transportation had nearly stopped in the storm. By the time he found Mia, fear had erased everything else from his mind. Thomas thanked Rebecca repeatedly while checking Mia's hands and face to make sure she was okay. He seemed embarrassed that a stranger had found his daughter alone. He apologized for the situation even though Rebecca had never accused him of doing anything wrong. Then she noticed the logo on his jacket. Sloan Technologies. Thomas worked for her. Not directly at headquarters, but through the company's facilities department, repairing heating systems, electrical problems, and mechanical equipment across several buildings. Rebecca asked how long he had worked there. 7 years. She had never seen him before. That realization stayed with her. Rebecca offered them a ride home. Thomas refused at first, saying they could take the bus, but one look at Mia's soaked shoes ended the argument. They climbed into the back of Rebecca's sedan while her driver turned the heat up. The address Thomas gave was in a neighborhood Rebecca had driven past many times without ever entering. The apartment building was old but clean. Thomas carried Mia upstairs because she had fallen asleep during the ride. Rebecca watched him balance the sleeping child against one shoulder while fumbling with his keys in the hallway. Before closing the door, Thomas thanked her again. Rebecca returned to the car, but she could not stop thinking about what she had seen. The next morning, she asked Human Resources for Thomas's employment file. His record was excellent. He had strong performance reviews, rarely missed work, and had received several internal notes praising him for responding to emergencies outside his scheduled hours. Then Rebecca noticed something else. Thomas had declined 2 promotion opportunities. She asked why. The answer was simple: the higher position required rotating overnight shifts and unpredictable travel between sites. Thomas had chosen lower pay because he needed a schedule that allowed him to care for Mia. Rebecca stared at the file for a long time. Sloan Technologies had spent millions developing employee retention programs, leadership workshops, and recruitment campaigns. Yet a skilled worker had quietly limited his own career for years because the company had no meaningful support system for single parents working non-traditional shifts. Rebecca asked for a review. What she found bothered her. There were childcare benefits for corporate employees, but they were difficult to access for hourly workers. Emergency family leave existed, but supervisors often discouraged workers from using it during busy periods. Flexible scheduling policies sounded generous in presentations but were rarely available to maintenance and facilities employees. Thomas had not failed the company. The company had made his life harder than it needed to be. A week later, Thomas was asked to come to headquarters. He arrived convinced he was in trouble. Rebecca met him in a conference room. She explained that the night she found Mia had forced her to look more closely at how the company supported employees like him. Thomas immediately defended his supervisor and said no one had treated him badly. Rebecca told him that was not the point. A system could fail people even when no individual intended harm. Then she offered him something unexpected. The facilities department was creating a daytime supervisory role focused on preventive maintenance planning. The job would increase his salary, keep him mostly on a predictable schedule, and use the technical knowledge he had built over 7 years. Thomas assumed she had created the job for him. Rebecca clarified that the role had been discussed for months. But meeting him made her realize exactly what kind of employee should fill it. Thomas accepted. The changes did not stop there. Over the next 6 months, Sloan Technologies expanded emergency childcare reimbursements to hourly employees, added backup transportation assistance during severe weather, and required managers to provide flexible options for workers facing unexpected school closures or caregiving emergencies. Rebecca insisted on one rule: employees would not have to prove they were desperate enough to deserve help. Thomas's life changed gradually. The higher salary allowed him to repair his car, build a small emergency fund, and finally stop checking his bank balance every time Mia asked for something at the grocery store. The predictable schedule meant he could attend school events without trading shifts or begging coworkers for favors. But the moment that mattered most came several months later. Mia's class held a family afternoon at school. Thomas arrived early. For once, he was not running from a job site. He was not apologizing for being late. He was simply there. Mia spotted him from across the playground and ran toward him with the same expression she had worn in the rain, but this time there was no fear in it. Rebecca never forgot that either. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone who may need a reminder that hardworking parents often carry invisible burdens, and subscribe to Dad's Hope. Sometimes one moment of compassion can reveal a problem that has been hiding in plain sight for years. Before we end, please comment, "No parent should have to choose alone," if you believe working mothers and fathers deserve understanding when life gives them no perfect options. Years later, Thomas still remembered the night he found Mia standing beneath the lights of Sloan Technologies, soaked from the rain and waiting for him. For a long time, he thought of that night as one of the worst moments of his life. Eventually, he understood that it had also become the moment someone with the power to change things finally saw him. Rebecca had built a company by studying numbers, systems, and results. But a little girl waiting alone in the rain taught her something no report ever had: behind every employee badge is a life that continues long after the shift ends, and sometimes the most important thing a leader can do is simply notice.